Welcome to my vlog. I'll be assessing two different weight room activities with two different athletes, improving the movements if needed. The back squat. What is expected in this movement is for the athlete to flex at the hip, knee and ankle at different degrees in order to maintain a balance when lowering the bum or the bar close to the ground, in a controlled fashion. The athlete shows a lack of control through the movement, increased forward lean, lack of depth, slight valgus from the right, and also reported some pinching sensations at the bottom of the movement. With many issues present, the rest of this video will focus on the athlete's forward lean as a means to improve the movement. Firstly, what we can see here is as the athlete lowers himself into the movement, he reaches a point of end range dorsiflexion very early. Therefore, to achieve greater depth, the athlete achieves this by increasing hip flexion, as you can see here. This position may increase stress at the lumbar spine, where if the athlete intends to increase load, may be problematic. Additionally, this may be the cause of the athlete's anterior hip pain. Due to a lack of training experience with this movement, the athlete may lack in skill in order to achieve the expected movement. Here I have tried to teach the athlete to break at the hips before the knees so that end range dorsiflexion is reached later in the movement, allowing the athlete to hopefully increase his depth without increasing hip flexion. As you can see, there is slight improvement here in the movement, but yet still forward flexion. A suggestion may also be to regress this to a goblet squat in order for the athlete to understand this better. The little change seen when assessing skill may be due to underlying capacity. When assessing the athlete's range of motion, clear restrictions presented in anterior hip, hip external rotation and internal rotation, and ankle dorsiflexion, all of which may be significant contributors to the athlete's forward lean. As highlighted, the athlete reaches end range dorsiflexion a lot earlier in the movement. Therefore, in attempts to improve the athlete's forward lean, I have chosen to address dorsiflexion limitations. By adding plates on the athlete's heels, what this should do is provide him with more relative dorsiflexion, meaning that he should reach his end range later in the movement. As you can see here, there is increased knee flexion and reduced hip flexion, which has improved the forward lean in the movement. This change to the movement has helped with the athlete's anterior hip pain, but also has reduced the load of the spine. Improvements in both skill and the limitations presented will be key if the athlete intends to do the movement without this heel lift. Athlete number 2 during the back squat shows a much better ability to go through the skill with a lot more controlled speed and good range of movement, showing good depth. This being said, providing that the athlete has the intentions to increase load to improve strength, the pelvic posterior tuck witnessed at the bottom of the movement may cause an issue under higher loads. As you can see here, this additional motion then causes the body to shift forward and move away from the vertical line. In attempts to correct this issue, what I've done is place a dowel along the athlete's spine, which is attached to his waistband of his shorts. Instructing the athlete to maintain points of contact with the dowel at the thoracic spine and lumbar spine sacrum area. This should provide feedback for the athlete as he lowers into the movement in order to maintain a neutral spine. See, this external reference has allowed the athlete to understand how to maintain neutral position throughout the squat. Despite the improvement in this ability to control pelvic tuck, it is important to still check the capacity that may be contributing to this limitation. After assessing hamstring length, lumbar extension, and ankle dorsiflexion, it is clear that there are no significant restrictions present that may be contributing to this pelvic tilt. Therefore, we can assume that this limitation is purely present due to a lack of skill. With the athlete showing an improvement in this limitation when challenging skill using the dowel, it is important to make sure that there is a crossover from using it with the dowel without a barbell and coming back to the skill that we are trying to improve. And as you can see from this before and after comparison, it is clear that there is a much better ability to maintain neutral spine throughout the movement, which has also meant that the the bar has followed more of a vertical path as he lowers into the movement. The next movement that the athletes will be doing is a step up. In this unilateral exercise, the athlete is expected to step up onto the box, maintaining hip, knee and toe alignment throughout the movement. The movement should be fairly quick on the way up and slow and controlled on the way down. Overall, the movement looks smooth on the way up and controlled on the way down. However, on the right leg, the athlete seems to struggle on the way down in controlling medial tracking of the femur. In order to help the athlete understand hip, knee and toe alignment, I have cued the athlete to screw his heel into the ground in order to maintain his knee from going medially, but also reinforce this cue with the resistance band. The resistance band should increase in tension if the femur tracks medially. This should be a direct feedback for the individual to use his glutes to externally rotate and resist any medial tracking of the femur. Over the course of these reps, the athlete has shown an ability to understand and improve on the technical skill needed for this lift. Capacity was focused around clearing the ankle and the hip of any range of motion issues, which were both clear. However, eccentric control of the external rotators was also checked in a double leg and single leg jump, which we can see here. The athlete really struggles to control adduction of the femur. Therefore, to improve the skill, the resistance band and the verbal cue given seem to be enough to allow the athlete to understand how to move efficiently in this movement. However, there is still some inconsistencies present, which, to address this, the individual should work on his eccentric control of the external rotators. As athlete number 2 goes through the movement, you can see that there are some consistencies between the two athletes, yet they are for different reasons. These issues are present both left and right, however, they are more accentuated on the right side. And as the athlete looks to initiate the movement and shifting his weight forward onto the right leg, he shows an inability to control hip, knee, and toe alignment at the beginning of the movement. This is illustrated by the arrows showing where the knee is tracking, but also the tracking of the toe. In attempts to distinguish whether this limitation is due to a lack of skill or a lack of capacity, I have asked the individual to screw the heel into the ground, but also hold a kettlebell on the outside of his right leg. This is to help the athlete understand that there needs to be a lateral shift to bring him back to central so that the hip, knee and toe is in line throughout the movement and at the start of the movement. However, this wasn't enough to improve the movement. Therefore, when testing capacity, hip external and internal rotation, but also ankle dorsiflexion, both shows positive for restrictions bilaterally, which both may contribute to the medial tracking of the knee at the start of the movement. However, the lack of dorsiflexion on the right side may indicate that at the start of the movement, where the individual attempts to shift his weight forward onto his right leg, due to a lack of dorsiflexion, may be causing the talus to drop in and the tibia to drop and rotate inward also, which may explain this medial tracking of the knee. To confirm this assumption, but also improve the movement, what I have done is place a heel lift under the right leg. This is so that there is more relative dorsiflexion available for the client to access, and hopefully this should reduce the medial tracking of the knee as more dorsiflexion is available to shift forward onto the right leg and maintain good hip, knee and toe alignment. The addition of the heel lift has allowed the athlete to access more dorsiflexion and make sure that the knee does not track medially. Therefore, an improvement in dorsiflexion, but also an improvement in understanding how to access this skill, should improve the overall movement without a heel lift. Thank you for watching, and remember, capacity is useless without skill.